The Article 370's renewal is being debated a lot. But Article 370 was a very specific temporary clause which was put into the thing around the time when the whole talk about plebiscite and everything was going on, when Kashmir acceded to India, etc. See, after the Kargil War, I remember watching on television, there was this guy, they were having a debate in Lahore TV or something like that. So one guy got up and he said, this is when Vajpayee was going across for the Lahore conference immediately. This was before the Kargil conference, उसके बाद कारगिल हुआ था. So जब वो जा रहे थे, तो एक बड़ा सहमा हुआ बंदा खड़ा हो गया और स्टूडियो में कहता है कि the question he asked was that a friendship with India is the objective, then what were we created for? That's a damn good question यार, कि तुमने पाकिस्तान बनाया किस लिए? अगर आपने इनके साथ लड़ाई नहीं करनी. Pakistan was always the cat's paw which was created by the British and the Western power. The Americans were not guilty of it. The Americans actually were very much in harm. Kashmir has always been geopolitically important because the moment from the Soviet Union, British-Soviet Union equation became the US-China equation, the northern areas of Pakistan, Gilgit, Skardu, Chitral, all this area, the highway, the fact that Xinjiang, which is now part of China, all become so important. And Jammu Kashmir is actually giving us that little hand. आप कश्मीर हटा लीजिए उसमें से, आपके बॉर्डर कहाँ होंगे?
Hello, sir. We would like to continue your previous conversation with IKS Club on topics related to the military history. We have some more questions related to it. My name is Devani Vivek. I am student of Indus University CSE branch. So in the series, my question is, do you feel that India has changed its strategy of war in the recent past? And what could be that turning point that played an important role in changing the previous existing strategy?
Yeah, things evolve. I mean, if you don't change your strategy if you also become predictable, right? I mean, you react in a certain way. If you look at India's military history since independence, you can actually divide it into certain phases. The first part, in fact, we just did the military history seminar in Vellum Boys in Dehradun, and this was exactly the topic which we dealt with. We talked about the evolving military strategies in India. And the first part that we identified was that we were a very reactive country. Pakistan did something, we reacted to that. Pakistan did something else, we reacted to that. They did a third thing, we reacted to that. They were proactive, we were reactive. 47, 48, we are purely reactive to everything Pakistan did in the valley. 65, the second very big conflict with Pakistan, 100% reactive. Whatever happened, Run of Kutch, initiated by them. Operation Gibraltar, we reacted to the invaders coming into the area. So the reactive phase in Indian military strategy was there from 1947 till 1965 at least. The next 6 years has seen a change. Because in 71, though we were reactive, we were also proactive. Uh, Pakistan was unleashing its own terror against its own people. The Punjabi Mussalman was turning on the Bengali Mussalman and they were murdering the daylights out of them. And we had problems, the refugees were coming, etc. But the fact is, it is also reactive, but it is also proactive because we decided to do something about it. Pakistan would have been very happy. आप चुपचाप बैठे रहो, हम मारते रहेंगे बंगालियों को, तुम्हारा क्या प्रॉब्लम? तीन 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 लाख मार दिए, अब 30 लाख मार दिए, अब हम 50 लाख मार देंगे. You just keep quiet. That is what they actually expected. Because the Indians have not been reactive. But Mrs. Gandhi, for she was a she was a very pragmatic and a very clear-headed leader at one level. She may have made certain mistakes subsequently, whether it's the emergency or whatever, but that's not the point here. In 71, she showed the country leadership levels which were absolutely fantastic. Even Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was in the BJP, I think that time he was Jansan, BJP didn't exist. Even he, who was on the opposition benches, referred to Mrs. Gandhi as Durga because she really showed real solid metal. Her father had failed to show that. Shastri ji gave us that little bit of work, but he didn't last long enough. And then Mrs. Gandhi took it a step forward. So the Indian military strategy began to change around that time. We began to believe in ourselves. And not only did we do something which was proactive, we did it in a manner where in 14 days we created a new country. I mean, and to sweep through Bangladesh and do what we did was absolutely remarkable. Because if you see the history of warfare, whether it's Vietnam, Cambodia, Lagos, Korea, they've all been stalemates. कभी किसी का पल्ला भारी होता है किसी का पर वो चलता रहता है there's never been a decisive tuck victory where you actually finish off with 93,000 prisoners and it's all over and a new country is born. Now we come into the second phase, which is where we are now shifting from reactive to proactive. And we now come up till 1984, the 13 years further down the line, where we now go fully proactive. And the thing where what acted as the catalyst for this was the Siachen conflict. Now, the Siachen conflict started in 1984. In fact, I had a role in that because uh, in 1981, when I crossed the Umashila Glacier, I came into the Zanskar side. I had picked up a US Air Force map from a French tourist. There was another map which Colonel Bulkumar had earlier got from a German tourist in Ladakh. These two maps led to Mrs. Gandhi then ordering the Indian Army to send out patrols and see exactly ho kya raha hai in this region because this area had not been demarcated after the 71 war. And once we realized that the Pakistanis were sending international mountaineering expeditions, etc., into the area, we found a lot of their debris. Then the orders were given to go ahead and occupy Siachen. Now, easier said than done because Siachen is the glacier itself, the mouth of the glacier is at 15,000 feet. And Indira Call is at about 17,500 feet. But the glacier itself is the bottom of the valley. The fighting was always going to happen on the Saltoro Range. And there are three major passes there. To go and occupy those passes was absolutely superhuman. The Sonam Post, for example, is at 21,000 feet. 21,000 feet is a mountaineering. I mean, आप जाओ तो आपको पता चलेगा exactly होता क्या है. Troops have gone and occupied those and then held on to it. And the Pakistanis have attacked and attacked and attacked. Oh, नीचे से आ रहे. So they have the advantage of, not being in the same altitude. But we fought them off. And since 84, we've done that. But we preempted them and this was purely proactive. The proactive phase now gives way 3 years later to an even different strategy, which is where we now start projecting power. When we went into Sri Lanka, for example, now whether it was successful, whether it was disastrous, how it panned out is not the issue here. But the thinking of the Indian armed forces was beginning to change. From proactive, you're now even going beyond your borders. You're now projecting power. Should you have projected power even further than Maldives and Sri Lanka and maybe gone into other countries? That is a debate which will never end. Because the war is being fought on various fronts. China is also trying to surround you in the Indian Ocean. So it's an ongoing thing. So again, there is a quantum shift around this time. In 1999, though we have reacted again to Pakistani intrusions into Kargil, the fact is that we have taken the same sweep of being pretty aggressive, we have cleared them out. If the Pakistanis had come into Kargil the way they did in 47, 48 and all that, it is possible that we would have accepted it. Because we did not have we didn't want to get into a fight. So, we used to always give also this whole thing about being a pacifist country and stuff like that. We've lost territory because of that. But in 99, we made it very clear that regardless of the cost, we will recover what is ours. ये हम नहीं लेने वाले. Now there's been a further quantum change. When the Pulwama blast has taken place, when the Uri terror attack took place, the fact that there was immediate retaliation, whether the Balakot strikes were successful, what happened, how many people died, is irrelevant. Makes no damn difference. What makes a difference is that yes, we got airborne and we were willing to go and we were willing to cross into Pakistan and we will see what is going to happen. Pakistanis reacted. Next day, Abhinandan got shot down. We shot down an F-16, all that. Those are the semantics. उससे कोई मतलब नहीं है. The fact that the Modi government, the BJP in particular, has shown that yes, we are willing to do this. Now we come one step further. When we come into the Galwan area, there was a standoff at Doklam, okay, where this whole thing happened with China. China was testing the water. Then we come into Galwan. Now, what exactly is happening in Galwan at the moment? Nobody is too sure of. But do we have different standards for Pakistan? Do we have different standards for China? Are we serious? The Prime Minister made certain statements. The army is saying something. They're doing certain things. We're too close historically to tell at the moment what is happening. But once to be very specific to your question, obviously the strategies are changing. And when you're dealing with China today, what Galwan and the immediate Western Ladakh, Eastern Ladakh skirmishes has proven that China as an enemy has refused to go away. After 62, the problem is simmering, simmering, simmering. So whether we captured this ridge or we did this or we did that is again not important in the larger sense. What is important is that China has underlined the fact that the border conflict, they will keep it alive. They're not interested in solving it. This will carry on. With technology changing, we will soon be facing all kinds of problems. We're already facing drones. We're already facing this. We're already facing that. We have to now be. It's like running on a treadmill. You have to keep running to stay in the same place. So we'll be if we are not already doing things to counter future warfare, which is artificial intelligence, drones, etc., then we are fooling ourselves. We have to be. We really have to be as abreast with everybody else and be prepared for the worst. So things are changing all the time. How they're going to pan out, what is going to happen, only time will tell.
Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. My next question is, as we all know, India keeps its stand neutral whenever it comes to an social or political issues globally. What is your point of view on that, like ongoing Russia and Ukraine war?
See, I personally feel being neutral on the Ukraine issue was a mistake. I think we should have been 100% in support of Russia. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Because the entire Ukraine conflict has been actually triggered off by the NATO powers, by the United States, whatever their game is. Putin was not going to accept NATO footprints in Ukraine. I don't think he had a choice. And the West has been probing and pushing, probing and pushing, probing and pushing, and they've gotten to that point. What he has done, he had to do. Now, why am I saying we should have been 100% in their favor? Because let us not forget what happened in 1971. In 71, the American fleet was there, off Dhaka, off in the Bay of Bengal. Who were the two guys who were goading Yahya Khan on? Who were holding his hand? 3 million Bengalis were killed. Who has that blood on their hands? Nixon and Kissinger. These two guys had a pathological hatred for Mrs. Gandhi. They were willing to back Pakistan no matter what happened. It may be Pakistani bayonets and Pakistani bullets which killed those Bengalis, but they were fired. Read the blood telegrams. Blood was their diplomat in Dhaka. He's telling his government what is happening. Now, in that scenario, please don't forget that the Soviet Union stood by India like a rock. Truck. Their submarine surfaced. They told them everything. They were willing to risk nuclear warfare. They said, "You will not interfere." The Americans were capable of doing anything as far as the Pakistan was concerned in 1971. Because they also viewed the 65 war as a defeat of the American equipment. Patton tanks, F-86 aircraft, etc. And they were too deeply embedded with Pakistan because Pakistan had other geopolitical significance to them. Their closeness to China. Don't forget, 70s is also the time when the ping pong diplomacy was going on. China was behind a bamboo curtain. There was no information coming out of that country. Pakistan was the only country which had a leg inside, and the Americans were using Pakistan to establish diplomatic relationships with China. Soviet Union, as far as India has been concerned, I'm not saying that okay, it's a lifelong. They did something for you, so if they do something wrong, firstly, I don't think they did anything wrong. How would you react if your neighbor suddenly had a gun and is pointing it at your family? You have to defend yourself. And I also feel there's another angle to why I'm saying what I'm saying. The American and the Western approach to warfare, and I won't even call it warfare because it's so one sided. Whether they're going to Syria, they're going to Iraq, they're going to Afghanistan, they saturate the place with fire. They kill everybody. Women, children, उड़ा दो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता उसका रंग अलग है ना. Whereas the Russians have gone into Ukraine very cautiously. They have, Putin could have reduced the whole place to rubble. In fact, all the Western reports in the beginning, they were looking at, they were saying, oh, the Russian troops have had it. They've not been able to have hardly covered any ground because they didn't particularly want to cover that ground. They wanted to take over Ukraine, sort out the issue and hand it back to get things back, get the territorial issues sorted out and get on with life. What has Russia done that the United States would not have done if the roles were reversed? You make Mexico a part of the Soviet Union. You think the Americans wouldn't have pulverized it off the map? Of course they would have. Forgotten the Cuban crisis, where there were just a few missiles placed in Cuba and everything almost came to a nuclear war. So let's not have double standards. And if India had to be, you know, being diplomatic and being neutral, but I personally feel we should have been 100% in favor of Russia. That's my personal opinion. Okay, but and I'm telling you why. However, this is again a very interesting change now, which is beginning to happen. Because if you listen to the foreign minister's statements, Mr. Jaishankar, etc., we are now beginning to talk very clearly that we are no longer looking at our interests vis-a-vis the West or the East or this or that. We are looking at our interests vis-a-vis ourselves. We have to start thinking of India as Fortress India. I've been saying this again and again and again. कोई आपकी मदद के लिए नहीं आएगा जब झगड़े शुरू होते हैं. You have to have your own stick and you have to know how to use it. You have to take certain decisions which are pragmatic. We could not have got into a scenario of an oil embargo and stuff like that. I mean, Europe has been dictating terms to everybody else and they do what they please, like what they feel like doing. What are they talking about? And Europe's problems are Europe's problems. Yeah, I mean, the West's problem is the West problem. Why should we have to take sides in this? Even being part of Quad vis-a-vis China is a very dangerous thing because we probably need to do it because we need to look at our Indian Ocean security outside the Indian Navy. Obviously, we don't have that kind of depth and power to be able to patrol the entire area and seal it off like, say, the US, etc. So we are being pragmatic. So there is a new pragmatism which has crept into Indian diplomacy, which is a good thing to see. And I think so long as it is driven by India first, fine with me.
My next question is, what is the geopolitical significance of Kashmir? Why is instead it was important and it is important now after removing Article 370?
The Article 370's renewal is being debated a lot. But Article 370 was a very specific temporary clause which was put into the thing around the time when the whole talk about plebiscite and everything was going on, when Kashmir acceded to India, etc. I'm not too aware of the exact legalities of 370, etc., because beyond a point that doesn't interest me too much. But the fact of the matter is that once it was withdrawn, Pele, let me say this, that we are too close to the event to say whether it was successful or not successful. It may, how it worked out. The fact that Jammu and Kashmir has now been slashed into two, Ladakh has been given an independence, autonomy, and this J&K is a separate thing. All these things, only time will tell. Successful, not successful. But you tell me, what was the alternative? We were having terrorist attacks every month. Pulwama happened, this happened, that happened, Thatu going on. I made a film on the Kashmir War, on the Kargil War, which was actually shown to Bill Clinton when he came here. I did the presentation for him at that time. And because I had shot the Kargil War, then when we edited it, we made it as part of the entire Kashmir thing. It was from Baramulla to Kargil. It's there on YouTube. You can see it. Now, when I see that film again, 20 years down the line, I shot it in 1999. Now it's 23 years, 24 years now. A quarter of a century has passed. When I'm watching that film, I'm watching those troops. I was with them. I was also wearing those same helmets, the same thing, carrying an AK-47 along with them. I still remember the feel of it. I still remember the taste of it. And let me tell you, nothing has changed. Or nothing had changed until Article 370. Pulwama happened before that. But after Pulwama, there have been, I mean, we've just had incidents in Jammu and stuff like that. These kind of attacks will continue. But are we going to remain a passive country and just keep taking it? As it is, the earlier question was about changing and evolving strategies. The fact is, you can't let it carry on. You have to take certain 20 साल से आपकी इसी तरह गाड़ी चल रही है खटर 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 आप उसको अगर आप बेच के अगर नई गाड़ी नहीं ट्राई करोगे आपका दिमाग खराब है या उसका इंजन बदल के देखो कुछ तो करो ना so that way 370 has at least changed the equation. It has also the politicians who have spoken a lot, they've been vilified also कि बहुत corrupt है ये है वो है. They've also done a lot of good. I mean, after all, democracy is like that. So give them their due. Say, okay, we've done a good job, but you failed because you have not been able to bring the matter under control. You're also dealing with Pakistan. You had a chap like Imran Khan, who was the prime minister, who used to talk so much rubbish at times. I mean, that, uh, the leadership in Pakistan is always going to be unstable because basically it's an unstable country. Not because of unstable people. People are absolutely fine. They're wonderful guys here. Because the whole country's makeup and everything in Kashmir has always been Kashmir centric. And Kashmir's importance to Pakistan's survival is exactly that. Because the moment you take the head away from the thing, they are actually what did you create Pakistan for in that case? If see after the Kargil War, I remember watching on television. There was this guy. They were having a debate in Lahore TV or something like that. One guy got up and he said, "This is when Vajpayee was going across for the Lahore conference immediately. This was before the Kargil conference. उसके बाद कारगिल हुआ था. तो जब वो जा रहे थे, तो एक बड़ा सहमा हुआ बंदा खड़ा हो गया और स्टूडियो में कहता है कि the question he asked was that if friendship with India is the objective, then what were we created for? That's a damn good question यार. कि तुमने पाकिस्तान बनाया किस लिए? अगर आपने इनके साथ लड़ाई नहीं करनी. Pakistan was always the cat's paw, which was created by the British and the Western part. The Americans were not guilty of it. The Americans actually were very much in our the initial actions, the way historically things have been, were in our favor. They inherited the geopolitical scenario from Pakistan and therefore from the British and therefore swung that in a certain direction as far as Pakistan was concerned. But Pakistan's creation is dependent was for control of this area. And why was it important? Because of oil, right? And for Pakistan to survive, they had to give them Kashmir. Kashmir has always been geopolitically important because the moment from the Soviet Union, British Soviet Union equation became the US China equation, the northern areas of Pakistan, Gilgit, Skardu, Chitral, all this area, the highway, the fact that Xinjiang, which is now part of China, all become so important. And Jammu Kashmir is actually giving us that little hand. आप कश्मीर हटा लीजिए उसमें से आपके बॉर्डर कहाँ होंगे Where is your border then? You are actually, then Delhi is a frontline, this thing. The whole concept of British defense. See, today we are talking about colonialism. We are saying terrible, we should undo it. But we also have to see the what was the British doing that was right vis-a-vis themselves, which we need to adapt. Why did they go to Afghanistan? First war of Afghanistan, one man came back. One man. They killed everybody, the Afghans. Yet they went a second time. They went into Tibet, the young husband expedition. They went into China for the Boxer Rebellion. They went here, they went there. Why? Because they were trying to push the boundaries as far out as possible. Makes sense, no? If today you got a boundary at Surf Creek and Run of Kutch, कल मैं बोलता हूँ नहीं हम आपकी यार पाकिस्तान को यहाँ बिठा देते हैं आपको you will not be able to sleep naturally because so you want the boundaries as far away from you as possible. So you're trying to push. That's the whole concept of the whole thing. And Kashmir its geopolitical position, its geographical position is such that it is surrounded. It's got Ladakh on one side, which is facing Tibet. It's got the Aksai Chin. It's got the Shashgang Valley, through which the highways are going. It's got the northern area through which the connectivity is there. You've got the Wakhan corridor, which connects it to Afghanistan. All the new railway lines from China, which are going to connect with Europe, are going to be along this corridor. They're going to drop down towards Iran. They will go through the Caspian Sea. These are the trade routes which are coming up. Kashmir is vital to the entire thing. And for us, today, it's even more important that we don't lose even an inch of territory on that because as it is, we've lost a lot. Northern areas was ours. Chala gaya. POK was ours. It's gone. You can't revoke that now. All that is, I think, big talk that we will take it back, we'll do this, we'll do that. That is all bravado. Kashmir in its current form is as important as it was in 1840, as it was in 1940, as it was in 1947, and so on and so forth.
Hello, so I am Manit Shah. I am a student of CSE of Indus University. So, with your due permission, I'll also like to ask few questions.
Please, please go ahead.
Okay, so my first question is: we have heard a lot about Article 370. So, what exactly is Article 370 with the context of Kashmir? And do you feel that removing 370 has changed the current scenario as compared to the previous one?
We just went over Article 370 as far as Kashmir was concerned. But what exactly is 370, how it is actually played out? I feel that in a federal system like ours, where all states are equal, whatever the thing is, how can you have different laws for different people? I mean, I live in Himachal, right? I live in the Kulu Valley. There are all kinds of laws. Himachali hai to ye hai, usko, I mean, he can buy land. I can't buy this. I can't do this. I can't do that. In a way, it's good. Otherwise, hundreds of people will come, buy up the whole thing, get it over with. But there are other ways of protecting communities and doing things. In the case of Kashmir, all these things were created because of a very unnatural kind of a scenario that had developed in 1947-48. The National Conference under Sheikh Abdullah was playing a different kind of a game. Kashmir has always had a very twisted history. Kashmir, Srinagar, was created by Ashoka Emperor way back in 33 CE, whatever. The fact is that कश्मीर का जो turbulence रहा है ना, it has never been a settled kind of a thing. Even Islam came in only in around the 10th century. Then the fact that there was a predominantly Muslim population being ruled over mainly by the Dogras. The Sikhs played a very important role. It became a part of the Sikh Empire. ये वो. So कश्मीर की काफी वो ना वो धज्जियां उड़ी हुई थी. जो भी आता है उसको अच्छी तरह से मार मूर के. I mean, it really been a war-torn kind of a scenario. In 1947-48, the British were playing their own games. I've referred to it in my talk earlier. They're the ones who actually started this whole, the division, the partition. Even Jinnah was recruited by Winston Churchill in 1934 as an agent. They created all this. The British, less said about them, the better. I mean, वो जो होता है ना हिंदी मूवी में द रियल इविल विलन, हाँ, if you look at India's overall history, the kind of role the British have played, and the best part is they played it in a banner where everybody says, "My बाप, आप तो बड़े आप ही ने हमारे को हमारा देश दिया था इसके पहले तो हिंदुस्तान था ही नहीं." That's what we were told to believe, no? They built the railway lines, they gave us an army, they did this, they did that, they gave us education, they gave us English, they gave us this, they gave us that. They're lucky they got away from here without being slaughtered because actually they deserve to be. The what they did, we've had speaker upon speaker earlier talk about India's Indic civilization and what colonization did for us. They have raped this country. And they've done it with their eyes wide open. But yet we have amazingly fond memories of the British. I talked to some of my seniors from school. Oh, those English masters were so good. Of course they were. They're wonderful people. But as a race, what did they do to us? How could you allow this kind of colonization to have taken place in the first place? And Article 370 and what actually unfolded in Kashmir is actually, again, a lot of nonsense which the British have played up. It was all key. They were calling the shots here. It's very difficult today to really understand the real role of Great Britain in the immediate 47-48 period. They were the superpower at that time. The US, after the war, was taking over from them, but they were still a transition period. They were calling your policies. They were putting the ground rules. They were saying, plebiscite dalo, ye karo, wo karo. I mean, today, Pakistanis keep harping on plebiscite. The fact is, we offered plebiscite. There were 4 clauses in plebiscite, you know. First, that all Pakistani troops had to get out of the Kashmir state. Secondly, it would be conducted in a certain way, etc. Pakistan refused all those. And Liaquat Ali, who was the Prime Minister of Pakistan, had actually refused plebiscite at that time because he knew he'd lose it. And today, Pakistan goes on and on about plebiscite. And 370 special status ये वो चल रहा था, and it was being used as a political tool by various parties which were in power, whether it was the National Conference, whether it was, you know, the Congress, whether it was whoever, because politicians will use whatever they can. So 370 being abrogated, I think, as I said, it's too early to judge, but at least it's a step. And it's an interesting step because let's see what happens.
Thank you, sir, for your answer. So, my next question is, in the Ukraine Russia war, India has successfully rescued many of its students from Ukraine safely. So, what is your opinion on that? Was it possible because of some of our strategies, or was it possible because of Russia holding a soft corner for us? As we have seen in many other conflicts too, that India has taken such respective steps in other conflicts. So, what is your opinion?
See, as a person who's been dealing with military history and somebody who's looking at the evolving face of India, not just military, otherwise, I think one of the most powerful things that has happened of late. पहले हम कहते थे कि in India we don't value a man's life. मर गया ठीक है. Look at the Americans. एक मरता है तो उसको फ्लैग में डाल के लाते हैं, ये करते हैं, वो करते हैं. This has been a gradual change. Today, an Indian's life is as important to us as any other citizen anywhere in the world. In fact, I would say, we still got a lot wrong, okay? There's still a lot that has happened. But at least on the global platform, whether it is Syria, whether it is Yemen, whether it is, wherever there's been trouble, I've been working very closely with General V.K. Singh. I'm one of his advisors. I've written his autobiography. He was the one who went in to evacuate all our people when the trouble had begun. There was mortar fire on the streets. The fact that he's a former army chief, he was walking openly down the thing. Our own ships went in. We brought everybody out. In Ukraine, we brought everybody out. I think it's a fantastic thing because what it does is we are asserting ourselves. We are saying, all right, we are here on the world stage. An Indian life is as important as anything else. That's why when some Indian goes and does something stupid, like go and urinate in an aircraft, we all feel a tremendous feeling of shame today because he's letting the flag down. That flag today is important. And various things have played a role. You see, when earlier you couldn't even have that flag in your house. It's only thanks to people like Mr. Jindal and all that they've moved the courts. Today you see the tricolor everywhere. Today we identify with it in a manner which your generation sees it. You don't know what it means to not have that flag. Whereas we guys have, my generation, first time we saw the Indian flag being waved like that was during cricket matches. 1983, the World Cup. These things have all started giving us a sense of identity. And when you see something like that, when you see that there's a conflict in an area, and Indian ships are going in, Indian aircraft are flying in, we are bringing our people out. Well, I feel damn good about it. Now, as far as Ukraine was concerned, I think every country had the same opportunity to pull its people out. It's not that the Russians said any Indian इनको जाने दो ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. Everybody had the same opportunity. No other government showed the kind of urgency and dedication to pull its people out as this government. Whether they did it for political mileage or whatever, it's a different matter. Whether they went and tom it or on television, वो सब करेंगे. But the fact is, we did it. We asserted ourselves, and for that, full marks. And I think this is part of the evolving Indian thing that we will not leave a man behind. This is what makes the army so good, because you don't leave your dead bodies behind. कुछ भी हो जाए आप उसको लेके आओगे. So, and I think if it's now spreading, going beyond just the armed forces to, we will not leave a single Indian behind. I think it's a fantastic thing.
Thank you, sir, for your answer. So, lastly, I would like to ask that what are your future plans? Like, are you working on any book or planning to work on a documentary? And in future, what other fields would you like to explore more?
Well, I've just finished writing my autobiography, which is not really an autobiography. It's most critics are saying it also. They're saying it's more like a look at contemporary history through my eyes, because I've been involved in a lot of things. Um, it's called The Life of an Hindustani. It's just been out for the last 20 days now. I think it's in its third week of release. Being published by Blue One Ink, and book's doing well. But that's once a book is over, it's over. You get on with the next thing. It's like a child leaving for college. A book then has its own identity. It creates its own. What I am currently working on and is uh, something which we are calling value education at the moment. We are working on developing a set of 12 books, 3 on the Northeast, 3 on South India, 4 on Indian wildlife, 1 on Trans-Himalaya, and 1 on illustrated military history. Now we are developing as a package. We are taking it to universities, we are taking it to schools. We are asking people to sign on, entire universities to sign on, probably come up to the Indus University also. We're talking to them. We want them to be one of the pilot universities to come on board this project. So we are developing those books. Just to give you an idea of the scope, each book is 368 pages. They've all been shot by me, except for the wildlife ones where we have other photographers. They are not coffee table books, but they're pictorials, and they're 9x6 in size. 6 color printing. It's superb stuff. We want our kids to have the best possible material. The matter is all very concise. It's presented more in the National Geographic, or giving short captions, letting the pictures talk. There's 700 to 750 to 800 photographs in each volume. The Northeast 3 books, for example, took me 5 years to do. It took me 105 trips. It's all documented. Average of 5 days each. There wasn't a single village we didn't go to. There wasn't we also got fantastic support from the uh, army. I got about 800 hours of helicopters. And by the time I got the chopper sanctions, I'd already done everything on foot. You name it, whether it is Sikkim, whether it is North Bengal, Meghalaya, Assam, Nagaland, Manipur, Tripura, whatever. I can go into any part of the country to those villages. And we made a big difference, even not just the understanding of the Northeast for the Northeast Trilogy, but also within the Northeast. For example, in the Tawang area, the Mompas are there. Mompas have 17 different sects. वो नदी के इस तरफ कौन है वो उनको पता ही नहीं है. They, because of head hunting and things like that, they're completely isolated. So we played a very major role in that, and now we are wanting to take that further. Tamil Nadu book is done. Kerala, Karnataka are being shot because South India is a plateau by itself. The wildlife books are in three. First one is North and East, then Central and West, then South India. But the fourth one is the one which excites me the most, which is the continental shelves and the islands. Now, Gujarat, your state, you have a continental shelf, which is absolutely fantastic. Tamil Nadu has one of the biggest continental shelves in the world. Continental shelves are where the fish breed. This is the future of the oceans depend on that. Yet nobody talks about it. We all know, territorial waters, continental waters, but what exactly is it? अगर साबरमती का पानी अगर आपका नदी में नहीं जाएगा ना, सी में नहीं जाएगा, सैलिनिटी बढ़ जाएगी, ये हो जाएगा, फिश का ये गिर जाएगा. दिस इज योर जनरेशन हैव टू डील विद दिस प्रॉब्लम. राइट नाउ यू आर टॉकिंग क्लाइमेट चेंज. What the hell is climate change? These are the issues which are there. So we are putting all this down together. We are bringing it as a package where we are going to be we are going to be saying, all right, you sign up for 2 years, we give you a book every 2 months. We are developing hubs which will not only give you the books, but will also guide you how to use those books. Otherwise, what's the point? It's a pictorial, dekh liya, khatam. But we won't say, no, this is it. See, they are almost encyclopedic in nature, but they're not encyclopedia. They're windows into an area. And what we are basically doing as a whole project is trying to take India to Indians. That is the tagline we are following. And we're also developing some coffee table books with it. Plus, we are working on another book on Kashmir and stuff like that. So, in many ways, I feel I'm a bit like I'm quite suited for an aviation academy. If I don't keep moving, I'm going to fall out of the sky. So, I like the process. For me, work is what drives me. I have a very good team. I've got Sana looking after military history at the moment. We are also doing this for schools. We are in our 7th year now. We're running this. She's running the program for us in Pelham Boys, which has now become an all India thing. Schools from all over come across in October. And we are trying to take all this forward. Let's see how it goes.
Thank you, sir. We really enjoyed having a conversation with you. Thank you for sharing your precious time with us.
Thank you very much for having me. And I look forward to visiting your university more often, and all the very best for in your futures.
Thank you, sir.